Hey everybody, Jeff McElwain here, and today I'm going to talk about 5 ways that you can travel with your guitar. I'm going to give you the pros and cons of each method, and I'm going to give you my favorite method of traveling with the guitar. Number 1, and in a perfect world, my favorite way to travel with my guitar would be to carry it on. Now there is a number of pros to this. 1, the guitar is always with you. You can see it at all times. It doesn't leave your hand. It doesn't get put underneath. It doesn't get lost in baggage or anything like that. So this is a great method. I've done this quite a bit and with no problems. As we'll see in a minute, when it suddenly becomes a problem, then things can really go south. First thing I would say that you should do is check the kind of flight that you're on. Is it a regional jet where your guitar actually fit overhead? Now, I've found some airlines have become kind of sneaky. They've actually changed the overhead size. So I've been on a flight recently where I could normally put my guitar overhead and it will not fit anymore. So that's when you have to be really nice and ask them to put it in the front closet. And that is upon their discretion, and they may say no. And then you have to check your guitar. Now, here's the really important thing. You do want to buy an extra legroom seat or something like that that gets you early boarding. Now, you're going to pay for that, so you're still paying to put your guitar overhead. Now, according to those FAA regulations that allegedly on a domestic flight that you were allowed to bring your guitar on, which, of course, is up to the gate attendant's discretion whether it actually happens or not. So that's a bit of a gamble. But if you get an early boarding, you get on there, you get an extra legroom seat, and you put your guitar over top. And allegedly, once your guitar is in the overhead, they are not allowed to take it out. That is your spot. That's not always true. So the pros are the guitar is right with you at all times. You can see it. You get on the plane, you get off the plane with your guitar. I love that. Now, the cons of this is if they ask you to check the guitar. I'm like, sorry, sir, you can't carry the guitar on the plane. We're going to ask you to gate check that. Then the problems can begin. Now, if they're going to actually just gently put it into the hold, which I've had done and it's waiting for me at the jetway, it's been fine. So this is where I always recommend the good gig bag. Now, I'm talking about traveling with electric guitars, which can actually really take a lot more abuse than an acoustic guitar. I'm going to talk more about the kind of guitars that you want to check and don't want to check. So I'm always bringing a Fender style guitar with me because they're super solid. I don't really travel much with Gibsons anymore because of the delicate headstock. So the cons, you might just have to check the guitar and then your guitar might be damaged. One thing to remember is that the airlines do not care about your guitar. The bag check people do not care about your guitar. They don't care. You've seen the videos of them throwing the stuff. So I expect the absolute worst from when the guitar gets put on the plane. I hate to say that, but you have to be prepared for the worst. And I'm often very surprised at how cool people are if you're polite to them. So I haven't had too many problems. Second you start being a jerk to someone, then all bets are off. Always be cool, always be polite, always be nice, and always try to be very reasonable. So that brings me to the gig bag. I would recommend highly the one I've been using for years is the mono gig bag. I really like the M80 Vertigo. I've been using this particular one forever. It's been on plenty of tours, plenty of times around New York City on the subway. What I like about it, it's got this shock bottom here, and if you have for your strap there, it protects that so your guitar won't ever bounce and put that strap button into your guitar and mess it up. Also, I think it's reasonably light, especially for all the protection it gives. And you have this really cool cradle for the guitar neck. Also, the straps are really great. You got this hanger thing right there, and you have one up top. And if you want, you can put the tick, little gig bag thing they have on the back of this thing, which I really like. So this has been my favorite gig bag for many years, and I can't recommend it enough. Now, number 2, disassemble your guitar and put it in the suitcase. What? Now, a lot of people get really scared by this one. I am very confident and competent in putting my guitars together and taking them apart. So I don't have a big problem with this one, especially if you're playing a Fender. Obviously, if you have a set neck guitar, you cannot do that. But if you're playing like a Strat style guitar or a Fender style Telecaster or anything like that, it's really not that difficult to take the strings off, pop the neck off, put it in your suitcase, and have a little gig bag in your suitcase with you and pack it, and then reassemble your guitar when you get to your location. I've done this numerous times, and I think it works great. There are some down points. So let me talk about the pros. You can also disassemble your guitar and carry the guitar in pieces in a bag in overhead, right? So you just wrap your neck up, you put the guitar body together, you can carry it all in sort of a tote bag. I know Julian Lage does this, Bill Kirchen does this, a lot of guitar players do this. And like I said, I've done it as well, and it's worked great. Also, I have a big suitcase. I can fit my guitar in it. I just wrap the neck up. Hey, if you got a nitro finish, don't bubble wrap it. I just use my clothes or some towels. It's been fine. I take all the pieces, put them in a bag in my suitcase with the screwdriver and adjustment tools, because you might need to readjust your guitar a little bit. Like I said, I'm confident in doing it. I've had really no problems with it, but it's something to think about. I prefer just pulling out my guitar and not having to reassemble it. So it is a great way to do it. So the pros about this is it's easy. A Fender style guitar, a bolt-on style neck can be taken apart, put back together very easily. I find it super simple, and you just have to carry a gig bag. In that case, you can carry a pretty light gig bag, fold it up, and put it in your suitcase. The downside is some people think, well, that's going to strip the screw holes and things like that. Yeah, if you do it a lot, if you're not experienced in putting your guitar together, if there's a shim in the neck, these things you have to be careful of, because you might not put your guitar together the way you liked when you left. So there's certain things that you need to be concerned with. With one of Michael Tuttle's guitars, I don't worry because everything is exactly cut. There's no shims in the neck. I take the neck off, put it back on. It plays exactly the same way. Now, something that people have done is have metal inserts put in the holes in the neck and the body. So when they screw it in, you're screwing metal inserts with an Allen wrench. I've not done that. I don't travel enough where I take off the neck of the guitar. So pros are that it's really easy to travel with, and you can bring your favorite guitar if it's a bolt-on neck. Cons is that you have to take it apart, put it back together, and it depends on your skill level. Number 3, check the guitar in an ATA-approved flight case. This is my favorite method at this point. So here is my Gator Titan Series flight case that my friends over at Sweetwater sent me. Now you can see it's a little scuffed up. That's after 3 tours, and you can imagine what your case will look like, and that's why something like this is really great. We have wheels on this end, so I can carry the case around. I can pull it by the handle in the front, which comes up and down, which is great. Also, the side handle does the same thing, which is really useful, so nothing's sticking out. Got these great locks on here. Sorry about the one hand thing. Really sturdy. And if I open it up, you can see how much room we have for my Tuttle. I keep my strap there with the bar and a pack of strings. I don't try to overpack that stuff. I don't want things maybe, if they open up the case, that can get put in wrong or get lost. So oftentimes I'll keep the bar with me, because if that gets lost, I'll be really kind of bummed. So it fits really snugly. It's a really solid case. So let's take a look at what it looks like with a Telecaster and a PRS. So here's the Telecaster right in there. You can see super snug and fits great. So right there, the Telecaster fits equally as well as my Stratocaster. So let's check out a PRS. Okay, so here's my PRS in there. Of course, I wouldn't travel with the bar and I'd pull it out, but just want to drop it in there and show it to you. So once again, fits really, really great. And here, see, it's super snug, fits perfectly. So this particular case can cover 3 different instruments and maybe many others. A Les Paul does not fit in this. So as you can see, the case is pretty scuffed up. I took it to Europe on a tour of the Czech Republic for 3 weeks, and I also took it back to England when I did that pedal show, and I taught there for 10 days. So really, really sold on this style case. This is a Gator one. It's really, really awesome. It's a fantastic case. So you have a case, but if you're touring in a van or a bus with other gear, the big heavy case is really cool, because then I can just throw the guitar in the back with everything else and not worry about it too much. On some tours, since I'm not running around with a flight case all the time, I leave a gig bag in Europe. I usually tour with the same guys, leave a gig bag with my friend at his place. He just meets me and brings the gig bag, and I keep the flight case in the van or at his place. So I'm not actually toting it around into hotel rooms. I don't like leaving my guitar in the bus or the van for obvious reasons, so I will bring it inside. So a gig bag can be a lot easier that way. So I have one that I keep in Europe, or you can also find a thinner gig bag that may fit in your suitcase as well. That's another option. So the cons, it's a case. I just generally don't like cases. Now, the biggest cons of checking your guitar is, one, it might get damaged. So hence why you use the good flight case, because you're minimizing that damage as much as possible. 2, your guitar might not make it to your location. This is a tough one because if it doesn't, there's not much you can do about it. The way I handle that, or at least I know the best thing to do, is to put air tags or a similar device into each piece of gear case. So when I'm on the plane, I can see that the case is, it's on the plane with me. Or if I get somewhere and I'm like, oh boy, the guitar is still at JFK and I'm at Heathrow, what are we going to do? At least you know where it is. So that's important that you put air tags in, which is a great thing because you can really keep track of your guitar. Now remember, your guitar being lost or damaged is not the norm. You protect the idea of the damage as much as possible by using a proper case, and getting lost is you put the air tags in. So technology's really helped that out quite a bit. Now, if you've got a gig that night and you've got no guitar, yeah, that can happen. So it can happen. It's not the norm though. Another con, of course, about checking your guitar is how many bags you have. And you're going to get charged an extra fee. So to go to Europe, this cost me $100 each way to check this flight case. Well, it's just part of the tour expense. It's just what you got to do to make sure your guitar gets there. If you're going to upgrade your seats to get on early to try to get overhead, that's still going to cost you some more money. Also, like I said, internationally, getting your guitar overhead is not something I would rely upon. One piece of advice, do not travel with the original case your guitar came in. Whether it's the Gibson style lift-in case, it's going to get destroyed. Your guitar is going to get destroyed. Whether you're the Fender style case, the rectangular big thing, it's not designed for air travel. It's designed to keep your guitar safe while you're walking around. So definitely don't fly with one of those. Just a quick break right here. If you could like and subscribe to my channel, it would really help me out quite a bit. Most of the people who watch my videos do not actually subscribe. So if you could do that, that'd help out a lot. Also, as a way of saying thank you, I have a free Arpeggios Unlocked ebook and mini course, and you can get that using the link above or below. I'm going to take you through how you can work through all of your arpeggios in a methodical, simple way. So please check that out on me using the link above or below. Number 4, buy a seat for your guitar next to you. Now, this is the most expensive option. And if you have a vintage instrument that you must fly with, then, this is probably the way to go. Now, the upside of this is, of course, that your guitar is with you at all times. It has a seat. You keep an eye on it. You know exactly what's going on. You get on the plane with it. It's right next to you. They can't tell you won't fit overhead, and you walk off the plane. Now, of course, like I said, it's way more expensive because you're buying 2 seats. Now, the downside of this is, one, of course, the cost. I can't afford to do that. Secondly, is it's not guaranteed. There's a recent article here that I'm pointing to that a cellist had to cancel his tour because the airline would not let him on the plane even though he had a seat for his cello. I've heard about other musicians having this problem, that the airlines don't necessarily know how to handle this and they have the seatbelt for it. There are people who get away with it, but it is still somewhat of a risk, I've discovered. Now, I know some friends who've actually done this and they've had a problem. Sometimes, of course, no problem at all. Other times they were like, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that. And he's like, well, I have a ticket. There's my guitar. So I take it, like, no, we don't do that. So remember, you are always at the mercy of the airline, especially if you're there getting on the plane and you're going to start a big fight about your guitar getting on or off. You're probably not going to be on your flight. And most likely you're going to lose that argument at that moment. You might get reimbursed later, but you're going to lose the argument at that moment. Number 5. Mail your guitar to you. Now, this one I've done on returns from tours, because sometimes I'm someplace cool, like I'm in New York, I'm in California, and I want to stay in California for another week and go on vacation, and I don't want to carry around a flight case. So I will just go to UPS, box it up, and ship it home. And that's a great way to do it. Internationally, that's going to be more expensive. You have to be careful with things like import and tariffs. Sometimes they will get you on that because they think you're buying or selling. That gets tricky. But if I'm in the United States and I want to spend some time somewhere else, or I have 2 guitars with me on the road, then I will just mail one back to me. And it's been great. So there's no real cons to that. I mean, you just have to, con is you got to go to the store and get it done. It can be a little pricey, but sometimes it's a lot easier than carrying the guitar around with you. So here are some other, I think, really important tips to think about. I don't travel with my favorite guitars. I've got some vintage instruments. I just don't travel with them. chances are they're going to be fine. But if they're not, they're kind of irreplaceable, and those are my favorites. So what I end up doing is I travel with guitars that are replaceable. Now, all my guitars to me are valuable, of course, and I love them individually. Like, this is my Michael Tuttle Jeff McErlane signature guitar, which I love. It's my favorite guitar at the moment. I travel with it because that's what I want to do, but I know Michael can make me another one, and it's got value to me. Of course, it's very important to me, but it's not irreplaceable. So if you have a guitar that's irreplaceable, I would not recommend traveling with it. Next up, insure your guitars. I can't say this enough. Things like Musicians Pro or Heritage, they cover worldwide for everything. Your homeowner's insurance almost always does not cover instruments. So you need instrument insurance. And I found it's not really crazy expensive. It's worth it to me to insure my favorite guitars, even if they're at home or if I'm traveling. Really, really important that you have insurance, because then you have peace of mind that if it gets stolen or damaged, you can get it replaced. Next up, I don't travel with Gibsons. I love Gibsons. I love Les Pauls. For me, the way I'm traveling is one guy carrying a whole bunch of gear. I really feel much more strongly and safe traveling with the guitar with a bolt-on neck, like a maple neck, something that's much more solid. With the Gibsons, it's the headstock angle and it's the mahogany. As my old friend and guitar repairman said, it's not if you're going to break the headstock on your Les Paul, it's when you're going to break the headstock on your Les Paul if you're touring with it. Now, of course, that's an exaggeration. If people are moving your gear for you and they're really careful. I'm talking about me flying to my gigs myself, and my guitars are really valuable to me. I just don't want to get to the gig and see the headstock broken off of my Gibson. Now, a little note on that, I found PRSs without the same extreme headstock angle are much less prone to breaking. I've not really traveled with one extensively, but what I've been told that there is a much, much reduced chance of breaking the headstock on a PRS, because Paul kind of fixed that. Now, I mentioned this before, AirTags or a similar device so I can keep track of my guitars and my instruments at all time. I put them in my suitcase, I put them in my guitar case, and I put them in my pedal board. Anything that I need to keep track of, I have an AirTag in. An amazing invention. Now, another thing to remember is I'm touring always pretty much on a budget. It's my band or it's a smaller thing. I'm not in some huge band where I just give them my guitars. It ends up at the gig in one of those great cases with a guitar tech. I have 10 guitars, I can choose from them. That's a different way of touring. That is this high level that is very expensive. I'm not living at that level. Generally, I bring one guitar on the road, maybe two, depending on what the gig pays. So I will have to check two guitars, or I can get one of those cool double checkable guitar cases, which are really great. I've not done that yet. I have to usually check my pedal board and then my suitcase, and then you get your carry-on. So that's a lot. And I have to carry all of that myself. I don't have roadies. If I'm getting to the airport, I got to get it to the airport. I have to go to the gig. I have to get back from the airport. I got to get the stuff from the van into the club, or in the van into the hotel. So these are things you really want to think about. The more stuff you bring, the more it's going to cost, and the more of a pain in the butt it is to fly around with or just transport. So like I said, I try to make things as simple as possible. I usually just bring one guitar. That is a risk as well. I know many guitar players do the same thing. If I can bring two, I definitely will do it. And I'm going to definitely investigate one of those bigger cases the more touring I have coming up, because I feel more comfortable with two guitars. I change my strings pretty much every other night. I'm very good at maintaining my guitar, so that really helps quite a bit. Learn how to take care of your instruments. Also, bring a toolbox full of tools that you can repair your instrument on the road. Check those. Do not try to carry those in overhead. All right, once again, thanks so much for Sweetwater help sponsor this video. They were really kind enough to send me this case. I loved it. It was great. The titanium Gator I'm using for my Fender style guitars, and it fits a PRS perfectly. And like I said, you can see it's all beaten up. So if you want to get one of your own, please use the link down below. It's really helpful. Same thing with the mono bags. All those links are down below. Helps me out with the channel. So once again, everyone, thank you for being here. Hope you learned something. Please put your travel with your guitar ideas and experiences down below. I'd love to hear from you. Until the next time, I'm Jeff McErlane.